It was a time of fear and hopelessness in Israel. For nearly 2 decades they had been enslaved by King Eglon of Moab. But just when all seemed lost, a courageous man named Ehud stepped forward. With a sword strapped to his thigh and a plan in his heart, he ventured into the heart of enemy territory, knowing that only one of them would leave the room alive. A long time ago, when the people of Israel had disobeyed God, they were captured and oppressed by the Moabites. The Moabite king Eglon was a cruel and powerful man, and he ruled over Israel for 18 years. The Israelites were desperate and cried out to God for help, and God listened. He chose a man named Ehud to deliver them from King Eglon. Ehud was different from most men. He was left-handed, which was unusual in those days. But God had a plan, and Ehud's left hand would play a crucial role in Israel's freedom. The Israelites sent Ehud to deliver a tribute, or payment, to King Eglon. This was a regular duty that showed their submission to the Moabite king. Before Ehud left, he secretly prepared a small, sharp, double-edged sword, about 1.5 feet long. He strapped the sword to his right thigh under his clothing, hidden from view. This was a key part of his plan since most people were right-handed, and guards typically only checked the left side for weapons. Ehud arrived at the grand palace of King Eglon, who was a very large man, known for his gluttony. Ehud presented the tribute, likely grain or goods from the Israelites, bowing respectfully before the king. After delivering the tribute, Ehud and his companions left the palace. But just outside the city, Ehud turned back alone, telling the king's attendants that he had a secret message for Eglon. Intrigued, the king ordered everyone to leave the room. He believed that Ehud had something important to say, something meant only for his ears. As the attendants left and the doors were closed, Ehud approached the king, who was sitting in his cool, private upper room. With a calm voice, Ehud said, "I have a message from God for you." King Eglon, curious, stood up from his throne to listen. This was the moment Ehud had been waiting for. With his left hand, he quickly reached for the hidden sword on his right thigh and thrust it deep into Eglon's stomach. The king was so large that the sword sank in entirely, and even the handle disappeared into the fat of his belly. Eglon collapsed and died instantly. Ehud, knowing he needed to escape quickly, locked the doors of the room and slipped away through a secret passage. The king's servants, unaware of what had happened, assumed Eglon was resting. They waited for a long time outside, thinking he was relieving himself in the cool room. Finally, when the delay became too long, they nervously unlocked the doors and found their king dead. Meanwhile, Ehud had already made his escape. He fled to the hills of Ephraim and blew a trumpet, calling the Israelites to battle. "Follow me," he shouted, "for the Lord has given Moab, your enemy, into your hands." The Israelites, inspired by Ehud's bravery, followed him into battle. Together they struck down about 10,000 of the Moabite soldiers, all strong and capable men. Not one of them escaped. Because of Ehud's courage and God's power, the Israelites were freed from Moabite oppression. They had peace in their land for 80 years. The story of Ehud and King Eglon reminds us that God can use anyone, no matter their differences, to accomplish his purposes. Ehud's left-handedness, which might have seemed insignificant, became the key to Israel's victory. And in the end, it was God's plan that brought deliverance to his people.